Hey everyone, Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're going to be working on this 2002 Volkswagen GTI behind me. Today, we're going to be covering how to do an oil change on this 1.8 turbo in our Mk4 behind us. This oil change process is going to be identical to any 1.8T and any Mk4 around the globe. Don't hold me to that, but that's a reality. Today we're going to be using our liquid moly oil change kit. We have a 5-liter jug of Loft 5W40 and our Hank's oil filter, as well as a Corteco drain plug and crush washer. Now, we recommend that you do this oil change about every 5,000 miles at most. As these vehicles get older, they typically like a more consistent interval than if you do 7 or 8K. Newer cars change a little bit. However, if you're unsure of what you should do it at, always be sure to check your owner's manual before doing anything. Now, before we get started on this DIY, let's take a look at some of the tools we're going to need for this job. For this job, you're going to need a couple basic tools. Today, we're using 2 different size 3/8 ratchets. We have a small extension, a 19mm socket, and we're using CTA 9180 as the oil filter removal tool. However, you can use a traditional oil filter wrench. And then some nice to haves are the CTA no spill oil funnel. And then, not pictured here, we have a catch can that we're going to be using underneath the lift. If you're working on the ground, just be sure to be safe and use the floor jack and jack stands. Now we have the tools covered, let's get started on this DIY. Before we get started underneath the car draining any of the oil, you always want to remove the cap first, just so that the whole engine can breathe and it flows out a little bit easier. So depending on your environment, you can either take it off and leave it off if you're somewhere secure. If you're outside and it's windy, I would suggest resting it over just like that. Now we have our cap situated, let's raise the car up and start draining our oil. All right, my good people, thank you for joining us underneath the vehicle. Now we're going to get ready to drain the oil from the 1.8. However, most of the time these cars are going to have a shield under here that you're going to want to remove before you get started. That way you can access your oil filter easily and your drain plug. To drain the oil on this, you're going to need a 19mm socket. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Once you crack that free, you should be able to thread this out by hand, unless the threads are a little gummed up, which we'll find out in just a moment. With our oil drain, we can go ahead and install our new drain plug. Before we do that, I'm just going to wipe down the surface here. You're going to torque this down. It's going to be about 30 Newton meters, maybe plus another 5, depending on the condition of your pan. For today, we're just going to snug this one down until the crush washer gets crushed. And by the powers of my calibrated wrist, that's good. Now we can go ahead and change out our oil filter. Now to remove the oil filter, I'm using CTA socket 9180. It's going to fit nicely around this oil filter instead of using oil filter wrench or anything like that. So just putting that on a ratchet. Once we get it started, we're going to want to let it drip out if there's anything even in here. So we'll let that do its thing for a minute. Once it slows down, then we'll finish removing the filter. With our filter off, we can now go ahead and clean our mating surface. You always want to make sure that the old seal that was on the filter came off, otherwise you're going to make a big mess when you put the new one on. We'll clean up these hoses and get our new one situated. With our area clean and ready to receive our new oil filter, I've prepared our Hank's filter with a little bit of oil. It's probably filled up about here. With our new oil filter ready to go, before installing, I've gone ahead and pre-filled it about halfway. Then I've also gone ahead and lubed up the seal up top so that it seals properly. We're going to start it off by hand. And just snug it up. You can use that same CTA tool If you want to torque this down, it's going to be about 15 foot-pounds. However, usually by hand it's best. And that should do us. Now let's head back up top and get this baby filled up with oil. With the underside of our 1.8 buttoned up, we can go ahead and fill this thing with oil. We're going to use the CTA no spill funnel. Just threads on really nicely. And pour our 540 in. You always want to start with about 4 liters of oil first and then check your dipstick from there. You're going to want to run it for a few minutes to get a better reading and then top off as needed. Don't forget, all your liquid moly jugs come with a sticker that you can put into the backside of your windshield, so you can write down the next time you got to change your oil and send this back for a lifetime replacement. All right. Once that's filled up and you're topped off, you can run it again and check your level, put our cap back on, and wrap up this DIY. Well, there you have it, my good people. Another DIY in the books. Overall, a pretty easy job on this 1.8T. Again, this is going to be applicable to all your Mk4 1.8T models. If you like what you saw in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments about this job or anything in the future, let us know in the comments box below. And if you want to see more DIYs like this, we're making new ones all the time. Please be sure to subscribe. As always, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.